The restaurant was already busy before the sun fully set. Soft music played in the background, glasses clinked, and the smell of fresh food filled the air. It was the kind of place people came to feel important. Expensive clothes, quiet laughter, and low voices were common here. For the customers, it was a place to relax. For the staff, it was a place where every move had to be perfect. The waitress moved quickly between tables, holding a tray with steady hands. She had learned to keep her shoulders straight, even when her feet hurt. She had learned to smile, even when customers didn't look at her face. This job mattered to her more than anyone knew. It paid the bills, kept the lights on at home, and helped her move forward after a difficult time in her life. She wasn't careless. She wasn't lazy. She double-checked orders, apologized when food took too long, and treated every customer with respect. Still, no matter how hard she tried, she felt invisible. Most people only noticed her when something went wrong. That evening, the front door opened again, and the mood inside the restaurant quietly shifted. Several staff members noticed right away. The millionaire's girlfriend had arrived. She came in often. Always well-dressed. Always confident. She walked like she owned the place, even though she didn't. Some people whispered her name. Others simply straightened their backs and worked faster. The manager glanced toward the door and sighed under his breath. He knew this night would not be easy. The girlfriend took a seat near the window, one of the best tables in the restaurant. She didn't wait to be greeted. She waved her hand slightly, as if calling someone beneath her. The waitress noticed and walked over, holding her small order pad. She put on her polite smile. "Good evening," she said gently. "What can I get for you tonight?" The girlfriend looked her up and down before answering. Her eyes showed boredom, not kindness. "Water," she said. "And make it fast." The waitress nodded. "Of course." She returned moments later with the water, placing it carefully on the table. She waited politely for the order. "I'll have the usual," the girlfriend said. "You should already know that." "I'm sorry," the waitress replied honestly. "I don't want to make a mistake. Could you please tell me again?" That was enough to trigger annoyance. The girlfriend rolled her eyes. "This is why service here keeps going downhill," she said loudly, making sure nearby tables could hear. "Every time, it's something." The waitress felt her face grow warm. She kept her voice calm. "I understand. I'll make sure it's perfect." The girlfriend leaned back in her chair. "You better." As the waitress walked away, she could feel eyes on her. Some customers looked uncomfortable. Others looked amused. She focused on her work, refusing to let the moment break her. The kitchen was busier than usual. Orders stacked up. A plate was delayed. It wasn't her fault, but she still returned to the table to explain. "I'm sorry for the wait," she said. "The kitchen is finishing your order now." The girlfriend's patience snapped. "Unbelievable," she said sharply. "I come here all the time, and this is how I'm treated?" "I truly apologize," the waitress said. "I don't want apologies," the girlfriend replied. "I want competence." Her voice grew louder with every word. "Do you even know who I am?" she asked. The waitress shook her head gently. "I treat everyone the same." That answer made things worse. The girlfriend stood up slightly from her chair. "That's the problem. You should know who deserves better treatment." The restaurant grew quiet. The manager noticed and rushed over. "Is there a problem?" he asked carefully. "Yes," the girlfriend said immediately, pointing at the waitress. "She's rude, slow, and clearly untrained. I don't want her near my table again." The waitress opened her mouth to speak, but stopped herself. She knew how these situations usually ended. The manager looked nervous. He glanced at the girlfriend, then at the waitress. "I can assign someone else," he said. "That's not enough," the girlfriend replied. People like this shouldn't be working in places like this. Fire her. The words hit hard. The waitress felt her chest tighten. She stood still, hands clasped in front of her, waiting. The manager hesitated. He knew the girlfriend had influence. He also knew the owner valued certain guests. "I'll handle it," he said quietly. He asked the waitress to step aside. They moved toward the back. "You know how she is," he said in a low voice. "She causes trouble." "I did nothing wrong," the waitress replied, her voice shaking slightly. "I know," he said. "But tonight isn't about right or wrong." Her heart sank. "I'm sorry," he added. "I have to let you go." The words felt unreal. The waitress nodded slowly. She didn't cry. Not there. She removed her apron, folded it neatly, and placed it on the counter. She thanked the kitchen staff quietly and walked toward the exit dot as she passed the dining area. The girlfriend watched with satisfaction. She lifted her glass, smiling to herself. Outside, the night air felt heavy. The waitress stood still for a moment, staring at the streetlights. Her hands trembled now that no one could see her. Losing this job hurt more than she expected. Not because of the work, but because of the way it ended. She took a deep breath and walked away, unaware that the same restaurant doors would open for her again sooner than anyone imagined. The next day began like any other, except for the weight of yesterday still resting heavily on the young waitress's shoulders. She woke up before sunrise, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what had happened. Losing her job wasn't new. She had faced challenges before, but the humiliation of being fired in front of so many people, and because of someone else's pride, hurt more than she expected. She brewed a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the city come to life. People rushed by, each carrying their own burdens. She thought about her life and how she had reached this point. There had been hardships, losses, struggles, and moments when giving up felt easier. But she had always pushed forward. This job was just one step, one small piece of the bigger puzzle she was building for herself. Meanwhile, in the world of the millionaire's girlfriend, yesterday's events were already becoming a story she would tell with pride. She walked into her apartment, handbag in hand, recounting the details to her friends with laughter and exaggeration. "You should have seen her face," she said. It was pathetic. "Can you believe she actually tried to argue with me?" Her friends nodded, their faces showing admiration. They had never met the waitress and didn't care about her struggles. To them, this was a story of power and influence. But the girlfriend didn't realize that pride often precedes downfall, and life had a way of balancing things unexpectedly. Back in her modest apartment, the young woman sat with her notebook open. She began writing, not for anyone else, but for herself. She listed her strengths, her skills, and her dreams. She knew she couldn't stay stuck in a moment of defeat. Every setback had been a lesson, and this one would be no different. She wrote about patience, hard work, and the importance of integrity. Slowly, determination replaced sorrow. While she reflected, her friends, neighbors, and colleagues began their days without knowing that soon. Their paths might cross with hers in ways they couldn't imagine. She remembered stories her parents had told her about life turning around unexpectedly. And in that memory, she found hope. She also remembered her past work experience, skills that many overlooked. She had studied business management for a few years while working odd jobs. She knew about leadership, customer service, and organization. She wasn't just a waitress. She was someone who had prepared herself for bigger opportunities. The job had been a temporary step, not a destination. Later that day, she decided to visit a small cafe she often went to for inspiration. She wanted to think without distractions, to plan her next move. Sitting there, sipping coffee, she observed the staff at work. She noticed small things, The way they managed rush hours, the way they communicated, the way the manager handled complaints. Every detail was a lesson. She realized she could do more than serve tables. She could lead, organize, and inspire others. But she needed the right chance, the right environment, and most importantly, self-confidence. And she had plenty of that now, sharpened by yesterday's humiliation. Meanwhile, news had started to spread quietly among the staff at the restaurant. People whispered about the fired waitress. Some felt sympathy. Others were indifferent. But one thing remained unknown to everyone. The young woman had connections and plans that would soon bring her back into that very restaurant. The millionaire's girlfriend, meanwhile, continued to flaunt her perceived victory. She shopped, went out with friends, and shared stories on social media. She didn't notice the subtle signs of change around her. In life, arrogance can blind people to the coming shifts that will redefine their position. The young woman began networking quietly, reaching out to mentors and friends who believed in her potential. She updated her resume, polished her skills, and took small steps to prepare herself for opportunities that aligned with her dreams. Every action she took was intentional, focused, and strategic. She also reflected on the meaning of respect and dignity. Yesterday had taught her that some people act cruelly when they feel powerful. But cruelty was never a reflection of the victim. It was a reflection of the person giving it. She resolved never to let anyone make her feel small again, not through their words, not through their actions. By late afternoon, she had drafted a plan. It wasn't just about finding another job. It was about building her future. She considered small businesses, leadership roles, and opportunities where her skills could shine. Every thought was guided by one principle. She would rise not by revenge, but by her own merit. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with gold and pink, she felt a quiet sense of empowerment. Yesterday's pain was fading, replaced by determination. She knew that life had surprises in store. And though she couldn't predict them, she trusted that her efforts would align with destiny in ways she couldn't yet see. The millionaire's girlfriend, unaware of the storm brewing quietly, believed her world was still under control. But life has a way of proving that power is temporary, while character and preparation are lasting. And soon, everyone would witness the unexpected twist that neither arrogance nor wealth. The following morning, the young woman woke up with a clear sense of purpose. The events of the previous day had left a mark, but they had also awakened a strength she didn't know she had. She had spent the night thinking, planning, and preparing. She knew that the world often judged people by appearances, wealth, and social status. But she also knew that true opportunity often came to those who were ready and patient. She dressed simply but neatly, choosing clothes that reflected her confidence rather than wealth. She wanted to step into the day feeling in control of her own energy. As she walked through the streets, the city felt different. Every face, every sound, and every movement seemed sharper, more meaningful. She was alert and aware, understanding that life rarely offered second chances. But when it did, they had to be seized. Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, the atmosphere was ordinary at first. Staff moved with their usual rhythm, tending to customers, managing orders, and keeping the place running smoothly. The millionaire's girlfriend had arrived, as usual, with her air of superiority. She assumed that yesterday's events had established her influence permanently. She sat at her preferred table, smiling to herself, convinced that she ruled over this small part of the world. Unaware of the storm approaching, she gave instructions to the staff, acting as if she owned not just the table, but the whole restaurant. She waved the manager over and spoke in a tone meant to intimidate. Staff exchanged uneasy glances. They had learned to handle her in small doses, but no one liked her constant need for power. At that very moment, the door to the restaurant opened again. A hush fell over the room. not because of the regular bustle, but because the person entering carried a presence that could not be ignored. The young woman walked in, composed, her steps steady and confident. People turned to look, some whispering in surprise. She had returned not as a defeated employee, but as someone with authority, someone whose position demanded respect. The millionaire's girlfriend noticed immediately. Her confident smile faltered. There was something different about the young woman. She carried herself with calm certainty, without arrogance or fear. For the first time, the girlfriend felt uncertain. The young woman approached the manager, who looked stunned. She spoke quietly but firmly, making it clear that she was in charge today. The staff realized that things were about to change. They watched, waiting to see how this unexpected turn would unfold. The millionaire's girlfriend tried to maintain her composure. She leaned back in her chair, attempting to project the same dominance she had exercised yesterday. But the air had shifted. The energy in the room told her that she no longer had control. The young woman didn't rush. She walked slowly through the restaurant, acknowledging staff with a nod, giving them small smiles that conveyed reassurance and trust. She wasn't here to humiliate anyone. She was here to manage, to lead, and to restore order. The staff immediately noticed the difference. Her presence brought calm, focus, and respect rather than fear. The manager, still recovering from his surprise, tried to speak privately with the young woman. He explained the previous day's incident in a low voice, hoping to clarify or perhaps prepare for an awkward confrontation. She listened patiently, nodding, absorbing the information without any visible sign of anger or revenge. She understood that people sometimes acted foolishly when they felt secure in their social position. Her goal was not to punish, but to correct and lead. Meanwhile, the millionaire's girlfriend fidgeted, her confidence shaking. She ordered a drink, trying to maintain a sense of control. But every glance toward the young woman reminded her of the reversal of power. She could no longer dominate with arrogance. She had to consider carefully how to behave under this new authority. The young woman addressed the staff quietly. She reminded them of the importance of teamwork, focus, and professionalism. She emphasized patience with customers and respect for each other. Her words were simple, sincere, and effective. People listened because they could feel that she meant what she said. Unlike the girlfriend, she didn't need to shout or threaten. Her authority came from competence, not wealth. As the day went on, the millionaire's girlfriend tried to assert herself subtly, making small comments and gestures to influence the staff. But each time she attempted to intervene, the young woman handled the situation with grace and clarity. She calmly redirected attention, offered solutions, and maintained control. It became obvious to everyone watching that she was in charge. Customers began to notice the difference too. Service improved, and the atmosphere felt more positive. Even regular patrons who had previously witnessed the girlfriend's antics sensed the change. They appreciated the calm efficiency, the respectfulness, and the quiet confidence of the young woman. By afternoon, the millionaire's girlfriend could no longer ignore the reality. The young woman had become not just competent, but a leader. The room had shifted under her presence, and every attempt to dominate or belittle was met with calm authority. She realized, perhaps for the first time, that wealth and influence were temporary, but skill, preparation, and character could endure. The young woman moved through her tasks methodically, ensuring that every detail was managed. She checked orders, communicated with staff, and attended to customers personally when needed. Her ability to handle pressure without losing composure impressed everyone. The restaurant ran smoothly, almost flawlessly, and the contrast to yesterday's chaos was stark. By evening, the millionaire's girlfriend finally understood that her position had been reversed. She had attempted to control someone she thought was beneath her. only to find herself powerless in the face of true competence. She realized that her arrogance had blinded her to the possibility that this young woman could rise above the circumstances and reclaim authority in an unexpected way. The young woman, for her part, treated the situation with dignity. She didn't gloat, and she didn't humiliate the girlfriend. She remained professional, ensuring that everyone, including the once dominant guest, understood that respect was now earned through actions and character, not social status. As the day came to a close, the staff felt relief and admiration. They had witnessed something rare, a complete reversal of roles, handled with professionalism and grace. The young woman had not only returned, but she had restored balance, earning respect from those who had once doubted her, and demonstrating that perseverance and preparation could change lives overnight. Walking home that evening, she felt a quiet satisfaction. Yesterday's defeat had transformed into today's victory. She had learned that life's challenges were opportunities in disguise, and that those who acted with patience, skill, and integrity could turn even the harshest experiences into stepping stones. She smiled to herself, knowing that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test her, teach her, and ultimately reveal the strength she had always carried within. Could prevent. The next morning at the restaurant began differently than any day before. The young woman arrived early, walking through the doors with quiet confidence. She greeted the staff by name, shaking hands, offering smiles, and acknowledging their work. They responded with gratitude and respect. She had become more than a visitor or employee. She was now the person guiding the restaurant, shaping its environment, and ensuring everything ran smoothly. The millionaire's girlfriend arrived later, still carrying her sense of superiority. She walked in, expecting her usual dominance to be intact, ready to demand attention and service as she always had. But she immediately noticed the change. The atmosphere in the restaurant was calm, organized, and positive. The staff moved efficiently, responding to the young woman's directions with focus and dedication. The girlfriend's usual confident smile wavered. She looked around, confused by the difference in energy. Something had shifted overnight, and she realized she was no longer in control. The young woman noticed her presence, acknowledging it without reaction. She did not rush or confront her aggressively. Instead, she continued her work, attending to tables, checking orders, and speaking with staff, maintaining the calm authority that had already begun to reshape the restaurant's dynamic. The staff noticed the girlfriend's uncertainty, feeling a sense of relief and support under the young woman's leadership. The girlfriend attempted to assert herself subtly, offering comments on the menu, making suggestions about the service, and trying to direct attention to herself. But each time, the young woman responded calmly, with clarity and composure, handling situations without confrontation or anger. She demonstrated leadership through her actions, not words, and everyone could see the difference. The staff began to follow her example, prioritizing professionalism and teamwork over fear or favoritism. The young woman made sure to acknowledge their efforts, providing encouragement, guidance, and respect. She listened when they had suggestions or concerns, making them feel valued and part of the success, rather than just workers in a system. Customers began to notice the difference as well. Service became smoother, orders were accurate, and the mood in the dining area felt lighter. Even the most demanding patrons noticed the change. People commented on how attentive and organized the staff seemed, unaware that the leadership behind this transformation was the same person who had been fired just a day before. The millionaire's girlfriends. Frustration grew as she realized that no one was following her directions anymore. Staff responded only to the young woman, ignoring her attempts to influence the flow of service. Her confidence dwindled, replaced by unease. She had underestimated the young woman's abilities, thinking wealth and status were enough to maintain authority. Now she understood that true influence comes from skill, preparation, and respect. At one point, the girlfriend tried to call over a staff member, but the young woman intervened politely, ensuring the request was handled correctly. She explained the proper procedure in a calm and professional manner. The staff member followed instructions without hesitation, reinforcing the shift in power that had already taken place. The manager, who had once allowed the girlfriend's influence to determine staffing decisions, now watched with awe. He realized that leadership was not about appeasing the powerful, but about fostering competence, trust, and respect. He took notes on how the young woman managed conflicts, guided the staff, and maintained a positive environment under pressure. Throughout the day, the young woman maintained her focus. She treated the millionaire's girlfriend with courtesy, but made it clear through her actions that respect was earned, not demanded. Every decision she made, every instruction she gave, and every correction she implemented was measured and fair, emphasizing accountability over favoritism. By mid-afternoon, the girlfriend finally understood the reality. She could no longer intimidate or belittle anyone. Her wealth and social position meant nothing in this environment where skill, preparation, and character defined authority. She realized that her previous arrogance had blinded her to the young woman's potential, and that her behavior had consequences she could not control. The young woman addressed the staff in a short meeting during a quiet moment. She praised their hard work, encouraged communication, and reminded them that teamwork and respect were more important than fear or authority. She emphasized that everyone, regardless of position or background, had value and could contribute to success. Her words were simple, but resonated deeply with those listening. Throughout the day, she also ensured that customers received the best service possible. She handled complaints with empathy and efficiency, turning potential frustrations into positive experiences. The restaurant ran better than it ever had before, not because of wealth or power, but because of leadership, respect, and dedication. As the evening approached, the millionaire's girlfriend finally recognized that her influence had ended. She had attempted to use status and intimidation to control situations, but the young woman had shown that true leadership required competence, patience, and integrity. There was no anger in the young woman's approach, only calm, fair authority. The girlfriend left the restaurant quietly that night, aware that she had been outmatched. She had lost not only control, but also her sense of superiority. The staff, however, felt a renewed sense of purpose and pride. They had witnessed the transformation of their workplace and the emergence of a leader who respected them, guided them, and ensured that everyone felt valued. Walking home, the young woman reflected on the day. She understood that power and influence could come in unexpected ways, and that patience, skill, and integrity often mattered more than wealth or status. She smiled quietly, knowing that her journey was only beginning, and that the lessons she had learned would guide her in the days ahead. She had taken what could have been a moment of defeat and transformed it into a victory, not through revenge, but through competence, professionalism, and dignity. The day had proven that real authority comes from respect earned through actions, and that humility, courage, and preparation can turn even the harshest challenges into opportunities for growth and success. The following morning, the young woman felt a quiet sense of readiness as she approached the restaurant. Everything from the previous days had prepared her for this moment. She walked through the doors with confidence, acknowledging the staff with a nod and a smile. They had grown to trust her guidance and appreciated the calm authority she brought to every decision. The atmosphere was already filled with energy and focus, a direct result of her leadership. The millionaire's girlfriend entered shortly after, carrying her usual air of entitlement. She assumed that her presence alone could command attention, that her wealth and social status would once again make her the center of control. But she was met with a very different reality. The young woman now held the authority in the restaurant, and the staff responded only to her directions. The power dynamic had shifted completely. The girlfriend's attempts to assert herself were subtle at first. She suggested menu changes, commented on service procedures, and made small demands to see if the staff would comply. Each time, the young woman addressed the situation with calm professionalism, ensuring that every task was completed correctly while maintaining respect for the staff. The girlfriend realized that her influence was now irrelevant. Staff members moved efficiently, anticipating needs, managing the flow of orders, and interacting with customers with confidence. The young woman guided them through each step, offering constructive feedback when necessary. She never raised her voice or belittled anyone. Instead, she modeled leadership through acti, demonstrating that competence and integrity were more powerful than fear or intimidation. The restaurant felt transformed. Customers noticed the change immediately. Service was smooth, attentive, and considerate. Complaints were handled with empathy, and every interaction had a sense of professionalism. The staff, once nervous under the girlfriend's domineering presence, now thrived in an environment of trust and respect. People started to relax, and the dining area radiated calm efficiency. Meanwhile, the millionaire's girlfriend sat at her table, growing more frustrated by the moment. Her usual tactics of intimidation had no effect. Every attempt to influence the staff or disrupt the restaurant's flow was met with quiet authority and precise solutions from the young woman. Her arrogance had blinded her, and now she faced the reality of being powerless in a space where she had once felt untouchable. The young woman did not confront the girlfriend directly. She understood that dignity and patience were far more effective than retaliation. She continued to lead, making decisions that benefited the staff and the customers, while subtly demonstrating that respect and competence were now the true measures of authority. During a brief lull in service, the young woman gathered the staff for a short meeting. She praised their dedication, reminded them of the importance of communication, and encouraged them to continue supporting each other. She emphasized that teamwork and respect were the keys to success, not fear or favoritism. Her words were simple, sincere, and resonated with everyone present. The millionaire's girlfriend tried one last attempt to assert dominance. She called over a server, demanding special attention and faster service. The young woman intervened calmly, explaining the proper procedure and ensuring that the request was handled efficiently. The staff followed her guidance without hesitation, reinforcing the reversal of power that had taken place by the afternoon. It was clear to everyone in the restaurant that the young woman had fully established her role as the leader. The girlfriend could no longer command respect through wealth or social status alone. The staff responded only to actions, competence, and fairness, and the young woman provided all three. As the day progressed, the girlfriend began to withdraw. She realized that her attempts to control or intimidate were futile. Her arrogance had led her to underestimate the young woman, who had proven through skill, preparation, and integrity that real authority comes from character and ability, not social position. The young woman continued to manage the restaurant with a balance of firmness and kindness. She ensured that every detail was attended to, every customer was satisfied, and every staff member felt supported. Her leadership transformed the workplace into a space where people felt valued and motivated. The energy in the restaurant was contagious, drawing admiration from both staff and customers. By evening, the millionaire's girlfriend quietly left the restaurant. She had faced the undeniable truth. Power based on privilege was temporary, while respect earned through skill and integrity was lasting. The staff, on the other hand, felt inspired and empowered. They had witnessed firsthand how a person could rise above adversity and lead with dignity. Walking home, the young woman reflected on everything that had happened. She realized that yesterday's humiliation had become today's opportunity. She had taken what could have been a moment of defeat and turned it into a demonstration of competence, leadership, and grace. She understood that true success was not about revenge or wealth, but about preparation, character, and the ability to inspire others. She smiled quietly, knowing that this experience had changed her life. It had taught her that challenges could become opportunities, that respect must be earned, and that integrity and patience could achieve what arrogance and privilege never could. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, ready to continue building her future, leading with confidence, and showing the world the power of resilience and dignity. That night, she went to bed with a peaceful mind. The story that had begun with humiliation and loss had ended with triumph and empowerment. She understood that life often unfolds in unexpected ways, and that every challenge holds the potential for growth and success. Her journey had proven that even the smallest moments could lead to profound transformations when met with courage, skill, and determination. The millionaire's girlfriend would never forget the lessons she had learned, and the staff would carry forward the example of leadership they had witnessed. But for the young woman, this was only the beginning. She knew that life would continue to test her, but she was prepared to face it with the strength, patience, and wisdom she had discovered within herself. And in that, she had found true power, far beyond the reach of arrogance or privilege.